Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about investment properties, which we don't really do a whole lot of discussion on this channel about the investor side of the real estate world, largely because I do not consider myself a subject matter expert on it. I certainly understand the basic framework of it, but to say that I'm a guru on real estate investing, I'd be completely lying to you and speaking out my ass, and I don't want to do that. But I will give you a little tutorial on how most people go about acquiring their first investment property, because I think that for a lot of people who are looking at, accumulating, wealth and retirement over time, real estate investment is something that does hold some interest to a lot of people, because if there's one thing that I can tell you, I would say, without really looking at it, but of the people that I know that have really done well in life, an almost universal staple inside of their portfolio is that they do have some sort of real estate, right? That could be that they've, invested in real estate, that they flip, or they finance other people's flips, right? Or they have rentals or whatever it may be. So let's talk about how you go about getting your first rental property. With that said, before we get into that, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, that would be great. Or if you decide that you hate this channel, then you could go ahead and subscribe now and then unsubscribe once you realize that you hate this channel. Either way, it doesn't really offend me, whatever works for you guys. How do we start here? So I think a lot of people, a common misconception is that in order to acquire your first rental property, right, you're going to need to save up 20 to 25% as a down payment. Sorry, with the yawns. 20 to 25% on your down payment, right, in order to go buy that investment property. So, and just so that you're aware, for people who are like, oh, don't they have 0% down or 3 to 5%, stuff like that? Not on rentals, okay, which is where we'll get to, so that you kind of understand how you can work the system a little bit. But on rentals, no. If you're going to buy a rental or investment property, no, you're not going to get away with that. Almost universally, you're going to have to put down 20, 25%. Now, I'm sure there's some loopholes or something that someone can chime in with, but hey, just speaking as a, generality here, 20 to 25%. So most people look at that and they go, man, if I'm buying, I don't know, let's just say a $300,000 house, and what's roughly a quarter of that, I don't know, 60, 70 grand. Most people are looking at going, how am I ever going to accumulate 60 to 70 grand in cash? Now, that's not factoring in closing costs, and then I might need to do a little bit of remodeling to get it up to par. So you go, I don't know, 70, 75, 80 grand, something like that, in order to get this thing ready to go. It seems kind of like an insurmountable thing. How could I ever get there? Well, in my experience, that's not how most people acquire their first, at least, rental property. How I typically see it done is you buy a primary residence, okay? So let's just say I buy my primary residence and I put down whatever I put down. It might have been 5%, hypothetically, 10%, could be less than 20 to 25 is where I'm getting. And you put that down, and what you need to do now is just stay in that house for a little bit. And let's just say we fast forward the clock 5 years, which sounds forever, right? But for most people, 5 years is going to pass and you're going to need a place to live. So why do you need to keep changing where you live? Just stay in your house for the next 5 years. And what will likely have happened is at the end of that 5 years, your house has gone up this much in value, and you've also paid off a certain amount of your mortgage. So now you have this equity gap, right? But that's kind of less important than the following. While you bought your house, let's just say at 300 grand, and 5 years later, let's just say it's worth 400, right? Which might be exaggerating, but I'm just, go with me on this. Well, what also happened, which is what matters, is that the rental market, right, the overall cost of housing has increased along with the equity in your house. So if your house is becoming more and more valuable year by year, then chances are the overall real estate market, including the rental market, is also going up in value. So while your payment on your house might be $1,500, 5 years from now, right, as things have climbed, you're like, hey, so my payment's still $1,500, but now, because the rental market has caught up as my payment has stayed the same, now I could rent out this house for, I don't know, let's say $2,300, right? So now you look at it and, man, I got this gap of like $800 where I could rent out this house. So what you need to have done, right, ideally, is in those 5 years, saved up enough cash to be able to go get to float the down payment on a new primary residence, right? Now, there's going to be some balance of debt to income ratios with the lenders and things like this that is going to be case by case. But the goal would be, I move out of my house that I now got about $800 a month upside in. I've got 5% to go throw down on a new primary residence, right? Versus 20 to 25% to go get an investment property. And that's the game. And you kind of rinse and repeat that game. Because if you said, let's just say hypothetically, you did that every 5 years for the next 20, you started at age 30, right? By the age of 50, you go, shit, I got a primary residence that I'm living in, and I probably got about 4 rental properties, which, if, I don't know, let's just say, hey, each of them, by the time that we, pay whatever a property manager or something so you don't have to deal with it, let's just say, in a hypothetical world, right, it's $500 to $600 a month, and I've got 4 of those that are bringing me $500 to $600 a month. You go, hey, I got $2,000 to $2,500 in essentially passive income, right? At least relatively passive income that's just coming in from renting out these properties, AKA that's how people can start to retire, right? And at no point within that process did you actually have to go put down, the $100,000 down payment. No, you just keep moving into a new primary residence every few years and renting out the residence that you just left that was previously your primary residence. I think you guys get where I'm going with this. So it's not rocket science. It's really not. It's actually just completely logical, and there's nothing fancy to it, but the reality is it works, right? It requires you to stay disciplined, right? And stay in your primary residence long enough to create this scenario where you can rent it out for more than what your monthly mortgage is. So there could be some refinancing and some different things like that, but that's the system. That's how it works. It's really not that complicated, and I think that for a lot of people, it's a very good path to, some wealth creation. Unless you're like me and you just probably just want to stay in your house forever because you like your house. Anyway, a quick, I can't say bourbon recommendation here, but just something that is a cool bottle that I'll crack at some point. This will be a celebration bottle. This is at the top end of how much I'm comfortable spending on bottles these days. But this is from Bardstown Bourbon Company. I picked this up at the distillery when I was in Bardstown. And so distillery only released, this was a blend that they, or basically a collab that they did with a Irish distillery. So this, it's really cool because Bardstown puts their, they put their damn disclosure on this thing about what percentage is everything. And apparently this is the only bottle of Bardstown bourbon I've ever seen that doesn't tell you what's in it. But I can tell you it's a 21-year Irish whiskey that's mixed with whatever the other components is. My plan is completely backfired. They always tell you exactly what's in the bottle. That's their whole thing is disclosure. So anyway, that plan backfired. If you guys need real estate help, let us know. We'd love to help you. I'm in Utah, so of course we work in Utah, but we got a lot of agents and partners that we work with all over the country. So if you ever need help and this kind of simple way of communicating about real estate is your style, let us know. We'd love to help you. We'd love you if you subscribe to the channel, all that good shit. We'll see you guys next time.